Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Higher Grounds podcast, and this is your morning minute meditation for this morning. I'm interested in an entire chapter in Jonah, chapter number 1, and we dealt with these messages at the church, and it took me 2 Sundays, 4 services, to get through chapter 1 in the book of Jonah. I'm going to read the last verse of Jonah, and I'm going to work my way up to where Jonah is in this last verse. And there's just too much to give you in just a few moments. And so Jonah chapter 1 and the verse number 17, the Bible says this: "Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." At the church, I took 2 Sundays and 4 services, and we dealt with disobedience. And of course, verse 17, we finished up Sunday night on the ride of disobedience. And the Lord prepared a great fish as Jonah looking for a ship. God gave him a submarine. And so we looked at the ride of disobedience. So I want to walk down through these 16 verses, and I'll give you 4 things this morning that led Jonah to verse number 17. In verses 1, 2, and 3, you'll find the road of disobedience. It was in those verses that God told Jonah to arise and go to Nineveh. And so Jonah arose, but he arose to go down. Jonah started a downward path in the first few verses. And when we get to verse number 3, everything's going downhill for Jonah. So we looked at the road of disobedience. In verse 4, we looked at the rebuke of disobedience. There's a storm that come. And Jonah boards a boat, paid the fare, going to Tarshish. And the devil always has boats in the harbor docked for sin, ready for you to get on it. And everything just seemed to look good for Jonah. He had the money to pay the fare, the ship going in the direction he wanted to go in. And so there's the rebuke of disobedience. Verse 5 through 10, there's the repercussions of disobedience. Sin not only affected Jonah, but it affected those lives of those men that were on the boat. We don't have time to parallel Jonah and Paul in the book of Acts 27, his storm, which was called Euroclydon. Everybody on that boat was spared because Paul was on there. Everybody on Jonah's boat was about to die because Jonah was on there. So there are repercussions in disobedience. And then verse 11 through 16, we looked at the relief. And Jonah told those men, "You're going to throw me overboard." And Jonah wasn't going to sacrifice himself, but he told them, said, "Y'all going to throw me overboard if you're going to get any relief from the storm." But they tried to continue rowing. They had no problem throwing things because they throw dice, then they threw wares, and so they just didn't want to throw Jonah overboard. And but until Jonah got off the boat, the storm was raging. And so there's the road to disobedience. There's the rebuke to disobedience. There's the repercussions of disobedience. There's the relief of disobedience. And then that great fish, that whale, what Jesus said, Matthew 12:40, was the ride of disobedience.